the Weekly Show with David J. Maloney.
This week, David chats with director Jonathan L. Bowen.
And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome, everyone, to the Weekly Show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. On tonight's show, we've got a really special guest. He's a rising writer and director whose new film, The Comic Shop, starring Jesse Metcalf and Tristin Mays, releases next month. Here, after the break, to chat about his career and brand new film is director Jonathan L. Bowen. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Our featured guest tonight is a rising director and writer whose new feature film, The Comic Shop, starring Jesse Metcalf and Tristin Mays, releases next month. Here to chat about his life, career, and brand new film, The Comic Shop, is none other than director Jonathan L. Bowen. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Jonathan, you're on your second feature film now with the coming release of The Comic Shop, but I'd like to start a little on your own story first. Sure. Were there a lot of movies and pop culture running through your house growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was always a pretty big movie buff, but I don't know, not until, I don't think I had the access until I was more like 15 or 16, where, I could go to Blockbuster more. And eventually, I got on their 8 pass, which was could have up to 8, tapes out at once or DVDs or whatever. And so I would be watching 3, taking back 3, and just doing this thing, all the time. And then I started a movie review site, which I saw as a way to kind of I guess, force me to watch more movies because I wanted to create more content for it. So it was a good way to brush up on film history.
Now, were your parents artistic or creative in any way?
Not really. My dad's a real estate developer, so he's kind of, in my opinion, pretty far away from that. But I guess there's vision involved, but it's more about money, with those kinds of things. And that wasn't the way my brain really focused,
Got it. So, we've all got, you mentioned Blockbuster, and it kind of reminds me of some Tarantino stories where he talked about working in the video store and just endlessly watching those things. And we've all got certain movies that had an impact on us. Is there a specific movie memory that stands out to you from growing up as the one that was the super impact movie for you?
Yeah, well, so that was, I guess, it's a cliche answer, but that was Star Wars. So I had always watched a lot of Star Wars, we even joked the Holy Trilogy. And I feel like all of my friends on Star Wars, I even had this really weird friend whose parents made him read the encyclopedia most of the time when he had free time. His parents were completely nuts. And so they only owned 3 movies, and it was the 3 Star Wars movies. That was it. That was all they owned. So basically, I didn't consider myself a fan, though, because I didn't, I guess, have a concept of what fan means before this time. So when the Star Wars movies came back to theaters, everyone was talking about them. I remember not really caring, but it seemed like everybody made a big deal of it. So I figured, well, I should go see this, check it out. And when we got there, it was 2:30 in the afternoon. And they told us they were sold out till 10:30. And I thought that was the weirdest thing because I'm doesn't everyone already have this movie at home? How is this sold out? And so I didn't know what a big deal it was. So we went back that night and, everybody's dressed up and there's lightsabers everywhere and just total craziness. And I remember just sitting there in the theater and you could just feel that electricity. And it was kind of in those moments that I was this is what I want to do, because I thought if something can mean so much to these people that 20 years later, this is the reaction, I want to be part of that. That's amazing to me. So it's kind of in that moments when I credit that I became a fan.
People have home theaters now, but you still want that kind of theater experience. It's a different viewing experience when you've got a whole audience, most of which are strangers who are having the same reactions that you are. And that also lets you know a movie hit the right mark, right?
I think so. I mean, I think those are some of the cool things. I remember during that screening, people went wild, when R2 appears or when Luke first appears and, all these things. And it was just pandemonium. And that was kind of like after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do in film, but I thought I want to work in film. And I think originally I thought of special effects. Then I kind of realized that doesn't like make any sense because what I love about Star Wars is not the effects, it's the mythology, the storytelling. And so it took me about a year before I'm like, yeah, I don't think effects would be it for me. But then, what a weird, like film is such a weird thing because how do you go from when you're a teenager, like, okay, I love movies, to imagining how you would direct one? It seems so far away that it would be like, it almost seems like a toddler who can't walk thinking about walking on the moon. Like it seems that far away when you're at that point.
Well, and I was going to ask if there was ever a point where the dream didn't seem feasible at all, and whether your parents were on board and supportive, or if there was a different path that they kind of wanted or hoped you would take.
Yeah, so my parents are really supportive of like as far as, whatever I want to do. My dad was he was a little funnier, like he was still supportive, but when I had first said the special effects thing, he told me something that did kind of resonate. I mean, I'm not super money focused, but it made sense what he was saying. He said, the thing about that kind of work is even if you make good money, even if you make a few 100,000 a year, you only make money when you're working. And he said, I make money all day long, every day, whether I'm fishing, sleeping, doesn't matter. Money just comes in. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. So it kind of makes you think at least like along his lines. But I just told him too, I was like, I'm more like I want to create, like I want to make something, and I'm not hyper focused on the money. Obviously, you have to make a living, but I don't know, it wasn't first of mind. I didn't want to just go through the motions.
Well, that's funny how, the way people, and I hate to put it this way, rebel from their parents is different from the way it used to always be. In other words, it's like, okay, my dad's a capitalist, so I'm going to be creative. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
but so you chose to study philosophy in college, which I think is an interesting spot to land as a writer, being as it sits kind of at the heart of every story in both conscious and unconscious ways. What made you decide to study that instead of something else, knowing that special effects was possibly in the mix, or movie making might have been in the mix? How did or was it just the standard collegiate, I don't know what to take, so I'm going to take philosophy? How did that come about?
So I started at Loyola Marymount as a film production major, and I worked so hard in high school to get into USC or UCLA. I was told I had like a 95% chance at USC, didn't work out, didn't get in. So all of a sudden I'm at this school that I didn't even look at. I submitted to because my advisor said, well, you need to have like a safety school. And so I get into both the safety schools for film production, but I was just coming from a religious, like a Jesuit high school. And I didn't really like want more of that. So I quit after a semester. I was like, I can't take this. Like it's just too depressing. So I did have one great class though, that semester. And it was a guy, a professor, Brian Trainer, I think was his name. Really young. He was filling in for a professor on sabbatical in philosophy. And of all things, even though it was his first year he's filling in, he won Professor of the Year because his class is amazing. I think it was titled, What is the Best Life? And when you really look at class, people say, oh, philosophy, how's that useful? Well, I don't know. How's algebra useful compared to what is the best life? Like, I don't really use algebra every day, but I do think about my life every day, you know? And so when I took this class, it really inspired me to think of the big questions. Like, I'd always been intellectually curious, but I don't think I had thought in the terms that class put. So then when I transferred to Oregon State, there was no film production. I only transferred there because it was closer to home and I had a lot of friends there and I was kind of trying to recover from this experience. So I thought, I love writing, English maybe. And then I thought, well, you write a lot in philosophy and I think I'm more interested in philosophy than I am like English literature, really. So that's kind of what brought me to philosophy.
So you graduate college and you're ready to start your career. How did the move to LA come about? I mean, that's such a giant leap for some people, and I'm always kind of curious as to how each person gets to that point and the different paths they take there. Did you have work lined up beforehand, or did you just kind of hop in a car or a bus and hope for the best?
It was a very strange move because I always knew I'd be going back, but I was assuming I would go to graduate school. That's why I wasted so much time in college getting these great grades again. I had like a 3.97, and I didn't need them at all because I ended up being so burnt out on school by the end that I said I can't do 3 years of grad school. I need to find one of those 1 year programs because I knew that a 3 year program is going to be a year of film studies. I spent all 4 years in college running a review site, studying film every second I had. I don't need to do that anymore. Like it's just it was something that was like not going to be valuable to me because I took about 6 classes on film theory when I was at Oregon State. Everything from like film history to horror and film theory. It was very interesting. So unfortunately, when I went down to move to LA again, my mom had just died of breast cancer. So my move was a little delayed. And so then I'm moving to this new city and driving in LA is its own thing. And I'm still coping with my mom's death. And it was pretty scary. So I went to LA Film School and I managed to drop out of my second film school after only 8 weeks. I couldn't even take it. But it was largely because the school would say things like constantly every day, well, you kids will learn more about this like once you're out in the real world. And if you hear that 5 times a day when tuition's 40 grand for the year, you're thinking,
So let's get out in the real world.
let's just get out of here. And so I'll credit them. I learned a lot in those 8 weeks because it was insane. Like we'd have 9 hours of class a day. We'd have 6 hours of class on Saturdays. They give us homework. So in 8 weeks, you'd be surprised how much you can learn. But I learned enough to know what it is that I didn't know and that I still needed to go and learn on my own. And then I just started creating work. And of course, my dad was helping me out for a little bit. And then he tells me, he's like, well, what's your plan to make a living down there, son? And I'm like, I don't know. I've only been here for 5 months. I don't even know how to make films, let alone make a living at anything. And so he's like, well, you better figure it out. So then he nudged me in the right direction and said, that businesses need videos. And, maybe we could go into making, corporate videos and stuff like that. And it didn't sound very exciting to me, but I was like, yeah, he's right. I mean, I could learn a lot from doing that, like hone the skills, make some money. And even though I don't like, I don't know, I get a mix of resentful with the company sometimes and also really grateful because it has helped me make a living for, 16 years, maybe not all the years, but, but like it's been a really good thing that I'm proud of. But I think that you can also get stuck in something where it's like, well, hey, wait a minute. If I just wanted to go into business, maybe I would have worked for my dad. Like that's not what I want.
That wasn't the plan.
That wasn't the plan. So it was kind of like, as long as I can do that and do like my primary film stuff, and then you have a period where it's like, a decade without making a feature film. That was the darkest part for me, the dark moment of the soul or whatever, where it's like every day I don't want to say, because would be a lie, that I didn't have time to pursue my dreams, like write scripts. I didn't have energy. Like by the time that I was done with the corporate stuff at the end of the day, I just want to hang out with my girlfriend, who's my wife now, or play video games or, watch movies because I was tired.
Well, you got to have some point to decompress after the pressure of the day, right? So I'm imagining at some point you may have had one of those moments that people talk about where you come home to, whatever your living circumstances are with whatever your old car may be. You look in your bank account, there may not be much in it. It's a moment of truth for a lot of people. Did you ever have one of those moments? And if so, what kept the dream alive for you at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really like, it was towards the end of 2017 where it was a weird situation where like I worked very hard in the company and kind of building it up, but I also felt like some of my efforts weren't necessarily paying off. And so I told my top employee, I just said, I think that either next year you need to run the company, do the day to day, or I just want to give it up. I don't want to do this anymore. And luckily, she's a total control freak. So she was like, "Oh no, yeah, like I would like to keep doing it. Like you can still be involved, but like I'll take some of the stuff off the plate and I'll handle it." And I don't know what this says about me, but that next year was actually a record year without me being involved. So
There you have it, right?
like, I
That's
was
funny.
like, oh, well, great. Yeah, there was my contribution. So then I spent all of 2018 writing scripts. And I finished 5 scripts, not all final. Like we're talking rough draft, maybe second, third draft kind of level. But it felt good. Like it was like, yeah, this is what I want to be doing. And I know they're just scripts, but that was the start. And one of those was the comic shop. So it was kind of like back on track. I just wanted to feel like I'm making even the tiniest bit of progress towards my real dreams.
And the first feature film which hit the circuit for you was your debut film, Amy Allison Fans, which is a comedy. So how is it that the writer director with the philosophy degree starts his career with a comedy? I mean, I like the dichotomy, but I want to know what the story is there. Where did that story come from?
Yeah, I mean, I still think about that sometimes, and it kind of bothers me because I don't think that there was enough like intention behind what should like your first feature maybe should be something more impactful, and maybe I should have thought through it more. And instead, what I did is I had a story I really liked, and I wanted to tell it, and I knew I could do it on a smaller budget. So so that logistical elements made sense. But like that's one thing I think about my first movie. I'm very proud of it. I think it's a good, funny movie, but I don't particularly think it has like a message, which is what, as a filmmaker, like that's kind of what I want is to have some sort of important theme or message. And yeah, I could say something like, "Oh, the first movie's theme is about the importance of honesty." Oh, wow, shocking! Like nobody's heard that before. But like it kind of was just something that came about because I was hanging out with my 2 actors who were in it doing a short film, and I came up with this idea. I was like, what if because the girl Cooper, she she seemed to be somebody that everybody knew, even though she wasn't like a big actress. Everyone in the industry seemed to know who she was. And so I thought maybe she's like poised for the next step
They
up.
just blow up, yeah.
And so I thought, how funny would it be if she blew up, but then her boyfriend doesn't really go anywhere. And then just to pay the bills, like he starts a fan site about her, but like doesn't tell her. And so that was kind of the basis of the movie, which I like the idea of an industry film. I'm kind of a sucker for that, like Entourage. And I guess that it sounds a little funny. My wife was just making fun of me about that last night. She's like, you film people, you just love to watch yourselves do things. And it's like, I said, to be fair, we are the only ones who have the ability to make movies about ourselves.
So we're just going to keep doing different versions of Ocean's 11, right? We're just going to keep cranking out Ocean's 11s.
But yeah, so it was kind of, it didn't totally fit my, ideal aesthetic. Whereas like my other scripts that I've written are usually very much based on some sort of philosophical messaging that I want people to think about. Like, I'd say I'm fascinated by the idea of memory and the sense that like you kind of are your memory. Like, if you don't have memories of things like Alzheimer's, then you're not you anymore in the sense that matters. So I've had a lot of scripts kind of exploring that idea. And I've also been very interested by like the nature of reality, right? Like things like The Matrix or The Truman Show or Existence, The 13th Floor, these kinds of things. So I gravitate towards that, but the problem is so much of that is science fiction. And doing that on a tiny budget is just really hard. It's not impossible, but it's really hard.
Well, if you'd only learned special effects.
Yeah, no joke. I mean,
So your current release, The Comic Shop, it's classed as a drama, but
Yeah.
from what I can tell, it definitely has some comedic elements as well. And the trailer looks great. So how did this story come about for you? If I recall, it's based a bit on some of your own life experiences, right?
Yeah. So I did know a guy named Mike, hoping he doesn't like dig up this movie, I guess, because we didn't really change his name. I mean, he really was Mike. But oh well, it's not like it's that similar to him in a lot of ways. It was a jumping off point because I used to go to comic shops as a kid all the time. And I became, kind of friendly with one of the comic shop owners who I'd see every week. And uh I guess that when he closed the store, it kind of felt like the end of an era in a way. And I always wondered what happened to him. He didn't seem really in it at the end. Like he didn't have the enthusiasm that he used to. And so I was just sitting there thinking, of all things, this is on a corporate trip. I was flying to LA for our annual meeting. And I just started thinking about that. And I was like thinking about how I thought a comic shop would be the coolest thing in the world to do for a living when I was like 11. So like, man, imagine owning your own comic shop. But here I am as an adult realizing that, yeah, owning any business is a lot of work. It's regulatory stuff, taxes, accounting, bookkeeping, employees, inventory. It's not really that much fun. So then I started thinking like maybe there was something else Mike wanted to do. Like maybe this wasn't his dream. And that kind of started this narrative about like, oh, I could tell this fictional story about Mike really wanting to be a comic illustrator and then parallel it to my own, where it's like I run this business making corporate videos, but I really want to be a filmmaker, full time, whatever. And so I started mirroring those two and then like adding fictional elements on top of it. And once I got to that point, I thought, well, yeah, but now what? Like, what's the journey? Like, and that's where Brandon came in. Like, there had to be some sort of catalyst. And I thought that sometimes this is a little bit of the philosophical thing. Some of the articles will say like, oh, I noticed the movie has like this mentor protege thing. Oh, see, I don't see that at all. I don't see that at all. Mike is not a mentor to Brandon.
It kind of goes the other way around, right? A little
They
bit.
each learn as much from each other,
Yeah.
if not like learning more from Brandon. And that's something that I'm a little rebellious in life. So I don't agree with the like respect your elders. I think respect everybody is a better saying. But I think that there's elder people who haven't done anything. They've just existed longer. And I'm like, that doesn't deserve respect. You have to work for respect. And I think that sometimes younger people have the purity that I try to find myself. So sometimes like I will think, what would college Jonathan think? And then I was like, well, college Jonathan wouldn't take no for an answer. He'd just keep going and think he's going to do it anyway. But middle-aged Jonathan might be like, oh, what's the point? It's probably not going to work out anyways, or, something like that. So I wanted Mike to see a younger version of himself and realize that there's something there. Like he's lost this youthful optimism that you can combine that with wisdom. Like wisdom is great, but wisdom with like cynicism isn't really a recipe for moving forward in life. So that's kind of what I wanted Mike to discover again, is that sense of like that it's just about the art. Like to Brandon, he doesn't care. He just likes drawing. He's not thinking about all the real life implications, the bills. He's not processing the statistics of whether he's going to make it or not. He just likes to draw,
That's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. And a special thanks to Jonathan L. Bowen for joining us. Jonathan's going to be back again next week for the second part of our interview, so please tune back in. Stay safe, everyone.